welcome to ESRAG Podcast, the Climate Conversations. We go to destination on climate action and sustainability project within the Rotary community. I'm your host, Admiral, and as per usual, my co-host today is Felix.
Always a pleasure to be back and to talk about things that matter to us, our environment, our climate. It's of interest. COP28 is coming, and I'm sure tonight's guest will be one of those people that you want to listen to, especially at this time when at COP28, they're doing what they call the global stock taking. It's a joy to be able to join you, and thank you for the time given tonight to at least be able to speak to you.
Thanks, Felix. How you been doing actually lately? What's going on with you?
Things are kind of looking kind of sad, kind of tough on this side of the continent. A lot of flooding is taking place. That is in Somali, that is in Kenya, and most of East Africa. This was predicted to take place. They spoke about the El Nino rains coming, and the reality is hitting hard. Right now, we have about 1,240 people who are already stuck, or rather held back by the floods in Somali. We have about 240 acres of farmland that have been destroyed. We have about 25 lives lost in Somali and about 15 in Kenya. So the floods are really hitting hard at the moment. And this is unusual. This is not normal. At this time of the year, this never used to take place. And it's kind of also interesting to see the kind of changes that are taking place. The reason I say so, it's because for the last 4 years, all that was being experienced on this part of the land was drought. That is no rain. 4 years consecutively. In fact, Somali almost was predicted to get into a famine. So now having all this heavy rain, it's kind of the opposite of what used to be there, which shows that there's a shift, there's an imbalance in the ecosystem. So it's my hope that at least something will be done at COP28 that will help in recreating a balance in the entire ecosystem.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of interesting to see that we kind of predict this, and then when it happens, we're like a bit in shock. Scientists have been talking about it for years, and then when it finally happens, people and politicians especially, they're like, well, we never heard this before.
It's a sad reality because you'd expect that at least those in authority will have done something towards the same, even if it's just digging water pans or something of the sort. So at least none of the water is being destroyed. And our guest tonight, I'm sure this is his line of specialty when it comes to sustainability, will be able to dig deeper and kind of give some of the recommendations that are needed. And I'm hoping they'll be adopted, especially after COP28. So tonight's guest is one of the guests that you truly want to listen to, especially looking at what the reality is on the ground.
I think we don't need to ask about any climate news about today from you, but I'll add something that I read today about environment. In Netherlands, there's a project in talks about using sewage waste and sewage water to heat the housing around the cities, to use the sewage heat and the water around it into sustainable and also, in a way, circular economy way, reusing sewage waste for heating of the homes. How do you think about that idea?
That's amazing. That's amazing that you can be able to heat houses out of water that is pretty much considered to be sewage. It shows that as far as technology is concerned, there's no end to it. It's just an issue of humans have to be able to think of how they can be able to use all the intelligence they have to make life more habitable. And it's interesting. As far as innovations, there seems to be no end to it. But the funny story is that we have to be pushed to the wall for such kind of solutions to be seen and implemented. I mean, Corona was a good example, and now climate crisis is another example that there's no end to what is possible. It's only that human beings have to be pushed to the wall to come up with solutions.
Yeah, exactly. I think before for our guests really get off by idea, the sewage water is also containing the shower water, the toilet water, the wastewater from the washing and from dishwasher and washing machine. And usually those are really warm waters, like a washing machine can sometimes up go to 60 degrees, 30 degrees, 40 degrees. It's quite hot water that can be used. Of course, they need to see what and how it works out with all the extra filters and also not to add into a biological process of the bacteria around it. But I think it's one of those ideas that can be used, especially in the bigger cities. This also kind of works into prevention of floodings. The flooding is Also, one of the big issues with flooding in big cities is reusing the wastewater, because wastewater can usually get, I don't want to say damaged, but well, something like that. I hope you understand what I mean there. It's not a great
Sure.
combination of the seawater and the river water and the sewage.
It's amazing. I'm still amazed by it. It shows, as I said, there's no end to innovation. And human beings, they have the ingenuity to be able to make life more habitable. And my hope is that much of these innovations that are coming out will be adopted on a bigger scale, because that's the only way we can make sure that there's a balance in the ecosystem.
I totally agree, Felix. And I think it's now time to bring out our guests and talk about exciting Rotary project as well.
I totally agree on that. Looking forward to the session. I'm excited. I know the guest has been to Kenya, and so I do have a few questions that I want to ask him. So at least to get his viewpoint on the experience he had on this part of the world.
Good evening, and welcome. Today's guest is Ludwig Kalthoff. As a membership director, has served as chair professional association German rheumatologists and a leader in strategic management of the healthcare industry. His level of participation in the Rotary includes many things, so I'm not gonna waste time talking about them, but more talking with Ludwig about them, about his projects and initiative, Every Club Climate Friendly, and Ifixtheplanet, and everything else around it. So, without further ado, welcome, Ludwig.
Welcome, Ilya. Welcome, Felix. It's an honor to be here. Thank you.
It's an honor having our guest tonight. I've been able to interact with him, and the much knowledge he has, especially around the aspect of ecosystem and sustainability, is going to be of great interest. I want to hear what he has to say pertaining to COP28. I want to hear what he has to say pertaining to ESRAG and to the Rotary. And so definitely one thing I can guarantee is that you will be well informed, well educated, and you want to keep listening to him.
So, Ludwig, could you share with our listeners your journey into Rotary and ESRAG? What inspired you to become part of ESRAG and, of course, Rotary?
Thank you for asking. One of those people who became ambassadorial scholars of the Rotary Foundation. And this given me a fantastic year as a student in 83, 84. I spent a year in Minnesota, United States, and coming back, I was asked to found the first Rotaract club in our area of 5 million people, the metropolis region. And then in 2000, I became Rotarian in a classical Rotary club. I was a president there 2012. And then with my former contact club in Netherlands, that's the Rotary Club Horen, I was being contacted and affiliated with a very special project, the 60 project in Kenya, Nakuru. And I learned from this former governor from this Rotary Club in Netherlands that this is really a big example of sustainability. Well, I was visiting in 2014 Kenya by myself with my wife and did this again in 2020. And this was my personal experience being part of something which is really lasting, which is sustainable, which has something to do with water, with rain, and with toilet houses, and with 100 small trees. So the idea was to give the Kenyans, well, only a small push that they start building up rain harvesting tanks. And with every tank, they build up this small forest with 100 trees. This was enriching their communities, and this gave me so much inspiration. And then I read a small article in autumn 2019 about ESRAG. I called up the most influencing person at that time, that was Stephen Solberg from Minnesota again. And Steve was referring me back to Sweden, where there was the first European chapter. And the four Swedish fellows finally asked me and inspired me to start the first chapter in Germany. And now we have in the German-speaking community Austria and Switzerland, and we are one of those more than 8 national chapters. Okay, and then during the Corona times, I thought in my small office, what can I personally do for ESRAG as a youngster? And I thought, well, creating a video contest, Ifixtheplanet, where in 90 seconds, people can present their project to the community, could be a good idea. And then I had luck. At that time, Holger Knag from a former meeting, then he was the patron of this successful campaign. Now I'm in the role of being governor-elect, and I have the honor to lead my district, which is obviously the biggest district in the German-speaking community. And with the spirit of ESRAG, with so many facts that I've learned through ESRAG, the motto the next year will be, our district should be climate friendly. This is in respect of the international campaign, which we are now promoting for ESRAG, that every club should be climate friendly. And this is a holistic approach to get to the green heart of every Rotaractor and every Rotarian. And this is possible. This is not only possible to count their footprint. This is a somewhat non-positive approach because it shows you your faults. And now we have another approach. We are looking for positive things called handprint. And this is much more effective. And in the new level of Every Club Climate Friendly, we have learned that using the idea of handprint is much more better to convince people, why don't you be part of Every Club Climate Friendly? And we have more than 120 clubs joining this. And now at the horizon, we see a big partner, that's those 900 clubs from RCAT, Rotary Climate Action Team Network, and his community. We have now very big partner, and we will come up to the aim to have 1,000 clubs joining Every Club Climate Friendly before the end of this Rotarian year. So I'm looking and hoping that you're listening now to this smart podcast, you will be convinced, wow, Every Club Climate Friendly with this hand and footprint should be something which I want to join.
One introduction, Ludwig. I think I'm going to be afraid to follow any other guests who will follow you after this. I think besides your whole long story, how did you get people to join you into joining ESRAG or joining your activities? Because I think within the Rotary community, you might understand, it's not that easy to get people involved, even though you have such a big community.
With the personal background of having this unforgettable experience with Africa, with Kenya, with those nice people in Nakuru, sitting with them together, planting small young trees. I have this green heart probably, and maybe I have the capacity to inspire people. Being the founder of the first eco club in Europe, that's a passport club. Passport means the members cannot only go to other clubs, that's usual, but they can and should be part of their projects. I have a personal experience in the new form of a Rotaract club and a Rotary club. So the combination of passport and cost-based club, this is something which makes it probably a little bit extraordinary to listen to one of those representatives.
You've done a lot, Ludwig, and what you've done is impressive. Starting from Nakuru, and the kind of system that you spoke about is something that right now is very much practical and very much needed. And I'd be happy to visit them in Nakuru and see how much they've scaled the same solution that you're able to help them and support them to implement, because the flooding is a challenge. And if such a system can be implemented, then the water cannot go to waste. So it's impressive that you did that. Also, listening to what you mentioned about Ifixtheplanet, that's kind of also interesting that use of smartphones can be able to scale solutions that are pretty much local. Now, you've spoken about the handprint, you've spoken about every club being a climate-friendly project. Yes. And I think you've delved into much of what I had in mind to question you about. But the second portion of the question that I had on the same is, how is it making a difference in addressing climate change within the Rotary community? Or what do you envision that it will make a difference in addressing climate change within the Rotary community? Maybe you'd like to speak more on that one too?
Yes, thank you for asking. I've learned a lot in working with the fabulous team of Michael Koch from Munich. He is establishing the branch Become Sustainable. And together with his team, together with Barbara Sitzman, starting the Climate Fresk project, together with Gunilla Osberg from Sweden with her Solvatten solar heater. We have more and more tools which shows the Rotary community that Rotary has an answer for the climate change and has solutions and has experts, not only the caterer teams within Rotary, but we have in ESRAG the technical experts led by the leader of the projects teams, Mina Venkatamaran. And she, Mina, was inaugurating 3 years ago a very smart tool for smartphones. That's the iRoad And iRoad is not only collecting data from tree planting projects, or not only for mangroves. If you are building up a small flower stripe, then it can be tracked by iRoad, by the geodata. And then at the end of every year, some road directors will tell you how much was the amount of CO2 reducing. So with these tools, we can help you, your Rotary Club and your Rotary Club to become part of the more sustainable ones, to become climate friendly.
It's interesting that Rotary has a tool that people can be able to implement in carrying out the project of every club climate friendly. I think this is one of those tools that we need to talk more about, because it seems to be key in pretty much ensuring that clubs have a traceability to their projects and to their efforts.
In the next level of every club climate friendly, Become Sustainable, we have now 4 aspects. We can count the club handprint. We can check on general club impact. We can count the handprint of club members. Finally, also the club footprints. So we have now 4 aspects to give more insight in the life of the members of those clubs, of our clubs. And this will enhance the awareness. Of course, this will foster the possibilities to become more climate friendly.
Thank you so much, Ludwig. Admiral, I'm sure you do have a question for him.
My question will be kind of delving into the climate change can be a daunting challenge, yet you remain so positive and dedicated to supporting climate initiative. What drives you personally to stay so optimistic and motivated during these times of environmental crisis?
The main reason is probably I am an optimistic person, and my knowledge is based on science. I know that with science and with smart tools, it is possible to cope with climate change. Yes, it's very hard. It's quite expensive, and with thinking in those swarms, think about handprints, it is not expensive anymore. You can collect the people around you in your region, in your country, and think more above the problem and think, how can we effectively go to our government and go to the finance to optimize processes?
It's quite amazing. Every solution that you're recommending, it's like you have a brain that keeps working like a machine. There's no end to solutions. As soon as you learned about ESRAG, you were able to create clubs, environmental friendly in other areas, Austria, Switzerland. And then you come back, you start a campaign on Ifixtheplanet videos. And then you come back, you create another campaign on every club, climate friendly. And now you're talking about a handprint. You're talking about, there's no end to how much solutions that it's like you have a repository of solutions that need, you need to write a book. That's what I'm thinking right now. Somebody needs to write a book, and I think you are the person to write a book. In fact, COP28, you should be one of the main speakers. Why not?
Well, thank you for this compliment, but I'm not the person who is able to write a book. I'm probably the person who can inspire others for some good actions. I'm very good in joining teams, and I admire the culture of ESRAG being a community with so many groups, with so many action groups, with so many initiatives. In those 6 areas, which ESRAG is covering, from biodiversity to plastic, we have a solid structure with inspired people. And thanks to all those chairs now with Yashar, we do have the possibility to change the world.
How do you see the change of the world? Because we can always agree to frameworks and ideas, and we can have meetings about them. What do you think it will inspire people to do an actual action, to actually join it?
Our RAG, like others, also include non-Rotarian and non-Rotaractors. So we are also covering, I think, 2 to 5% of those people who think Rotary is a good organization, highly recognized, mainly by its foundation, and they want to be part of this social club idea. They want not only to have friendship with a classical Rotary Club, but they want to have the possibility to act locally or regionally. And with those 7 areas of focus, everybody can choose what might be of his personal interest. Our action group is covering now the news focus environment. And with this in mind, we are able to get to the green heart of more and more people. And in the Rotarian family, they think, okay, if there is a special group like our group, it's probably more effective to join them.
Now, just a quick one, Ludwig. Do you attribute your love for science to be maybe the reason as to why you come up with so many solutions, or you see the science behind so many solutions that are not too obvious, but until you speak of it, they become obvious? Will you say it's your love for science or is it your appreciation for art? What really gives you the kick to come up with such solutions? What triggers all the solutions that you have that basically are practical and that basically looking at it would have a greater impact. Where does your genius come from?
From my genes, partly, from my family, from the possibility to have the chance to study, to become a physician, and maybe my specialty, rheumatology, is something which is inspiring me mainly. As a rheumatologist, you have to be able to think and act holistically. You have to be able to work with your five senses, not only, but you need information about imaging and laboratory. So this is something which is my daily business. On the other hand, I'm now, since 3.5 years, a beginners in yoga. And yoga is mainly science-based. So I think with this balance, to be a human with a positive mind, mainly influenced by science, and now getting to the level of something more than science, and still having the community of people who are positive, that's probably behind the scene.
Because this drives me to the question that I have for you next. Because I heard that you recently read a book called Hands Up Climate Turnout. Is it possible for you to share your thoughts on the book and how it has influenced your perspective on climate action?
Thank you for raising up this book, which was one of those in the last 3 years who really is influencing me. In this book, Gabriel Baunach, a young engineer, is figuring out the main importance of handprint versus footprint. He is spending some chapters about climate fear. What is the science behind that phenomenon? And he's spending about time how to start with campaigns. Then he's figuring out how you become as a human locally or regionally more effective in influencing your neighbors or your politicians to get to the level of climate change. And what I admire his work 3 years ago when he started a podcast like you, and in 5 episodes, 100 minutes in total, he is explaining the physics of climate change.
Is it in German?
It is in German, and I hope it will be translated in the next year. I'm now in a personal contact with him and will ask him to find solution to have a translation. It is really worthwhile.
I'm taking it that you read widely, right?
Yes.
So which other book would you recommend for the listeners to be able to look into, at least to get inspiration on climate change or climate action?
Well, the one you have mentioned.
Any other maybe in addition to that?
Well, I'm learning every week from others with their experience and their looking at our planet. I'm only a little person in this world.
So I'm gathering much of the solutions that you come up with is because of your open mind and interaction with people from all over. You're always soaking up thoughts and ideas and solutions, right?
Yes, and I will allow myself to give you or to present you a small mirror. I admire what you have done, Felix, in Africa, what you are doing. Your enthusiasm, for instance, the Common Ground project is really exciting. And with your experience in agriculture, you are probably the best person to do this in your community. And Ilya, what you are doing for Rotary as the actual president of Den Haag-Scheveningen is just great, inspiring young people to join our family.
That's an honor. So what I'm also getting from you is that we need to be able to listen to each other
Yes.
We need to be able to see who is doing what, where, and the relevance of it. And I'm guessing this is what Ifixtheplanet was all about.
That's so true. So our team really learned so many beautiful people with their projects, tiny projects, big projects. I remember a lot of those projects, not only from Europe, from India, some from Africa, from Asia. So Ifixtheplanet was really the start of my international view of our area of focus.
Wow. So what it all boils down is we all have a solution. We just need to be able to hear from each other and also look within ourselves. What is it that we have in our hands to make a difference in the world? To me, it's like you embody what United Nations is all about. What do you think about it, Admiral?
I think every time I hear Ludwig speak, it makes me want to do even more for climate. I mean, we have already projects running and things like this, but it makes me want to think, okay, what else is possible there to do? What else can I do? I think it comes into kind of trying to inspire people to do. I think by sharing your story, Ludwig, of just one by one doing project and activity, your trip to Kenya, how inspiring it was. You're working with your colleagues in Rotary, ESRAG, and all other projects. I think the more you are a part of a community that does things, the more you want to do things.
I'll have two more.
Two more.
If you allow.
What is the two more?
Well, the first is in this audience, and I know that your podcast is very good recognized. We should mention the new initiative from ESRAG International. That's 1 million solar panel. 1 million solar panel. At the horizon, there is another initiative being produced, and probably in our district in the next year being started. That's 1 million flower stripes. So with these small examples, you see Rotary is not sleeping. Rotary is being awake more and more. And with people like you and with people listening to us, it is possible to make the difference. Thank you.
That's amazing. That is truly amazing. Because what I'm getting from tonight, what I'm learning from tonight is that everybody has what it takes to make a difference in the world. That no solution is too small and no solution is too big, but every solution matters. What's your take, Admiral?
I think that's a good ending point for our podcast today, for our interview guests. I hope you learn a lot about what Ludwig is doing. I hope you be able to join one of the things, one of the projects, one of the initiatives that he's spearheading. Any last word, Ludwig, before we close off?
That's the idea of team. Together, each achieves more. I'm only one part.
Wow, what a night, what a night. If I had the single vote to make you the next UN Secretary General, trust me, that's what I'd do. Trust me on that one. I would definitely, without a doubt, cast that vote without thinking twice.
Maybe first Rotary President and then Secretary General.
So, why not?
It was so fun to talk with you. Thank you so much to giving our team the chance to say something about Every Club Climate Friendly. Have a good night.
Well, Felix, I think it's quite inspiring to just be able part of ESRAG. You know, you have to do quite a lot of things.
Yes, and tonight was quite an inspiring journey to hear of all the solutions that Rotary International is pretty much has in hand for the rest of the world to be able to adopt and for it to be scaled, and to hear what ESRAG has been doing, initiating in respect to our guest tonight, Ludwig. What he has spoken about is quite a lot, quite a number. from the different projects he himself has initiated. It's very inspiring. And also, the inspiring aspect of it is that every solution matters. There's no small, there's no big, but every solution matters.
Yeah, and if you'd like to know more about all the initiatives that Ludwig was speaking about, we'll post them in the show notes and you can find them. Majority is also to be found on ESRAG.org website. Well, before we go, I think it's good to kind of check in maybe on some positive news. Everything that is going on in the world, maybe it's something positive or something that brought you joy, maybe an animal or something funny that you read. So I'm going to start first and then I'm going back to you, Felix. So, what I've read about a guy in San Francisco, biologist in California, has saved a species of butterflies. He saved the California papevine swallowtails by recreating all the things that butterflies needed to come be. So he saved the species. That's an action of one person and doing something about butterflies that he likes. And that native butterflies, for example, those of butterflies native to San Francisco, do not find any more native plants. So they almost all of them were gone because of this one biologist. We can still look at them and take pictures of them and enjoy the biodiversity, a native biodiversity that is needed in their own backyard.
Wow, that's interesting. That's interesting. And that's good. And it all boils down to the same issue that every single solution matters. One drop in the waters creates a ripple effect that is pretty much adding value to society. On my end, I can speak about a lady. She's called Josephine. Josephine was born in a community where women don't have a voice. In this community, there's a lot of clashes, a lot of fightings, especially there's a community that usually does a lot of livestock rearing. And usually pastoralism is the way. And in this community, there's usually a lot of infights between different tribes. And she was able to stand up as a woman and she was able to bring the young men to stop fighting by practicing different forms of agriculture, and that is on crop development. And I had some time that I was able to speak to her on what gave her the strength to be able to do that. And what she pointed out is that she has daughters and she's thinking about the future and she has sons of her own. And she didn't want her sons to fall into a tradition that is passed by time. People need to live peacefully with each other. And so for her, it was more like, yes, she's a woman. Yes, but what she wants for her son and what she wants for her daughter, or rather her daughters, is an existence where people live in peace with each other. And so she has been able to mobilize women to be able to also kind of push the same advocacy in their communities. And she's been able to mobilize young men not to get into the tradition of fighting over land, fighting over pasture, and this peace that she's been able to establish in and around her community. So I found that to be quite a positive, story to be told over and over again so that people can understand that status quo is not something that's supposed to be maintained, but you can always make a difference even when your voice is one that is not considered to be heard.
No, it's very inspiring. I think one of the few things that many people fear is an angry mother, I guess. You don't want your mother to be angry at anything.
That is true. That is true. That is so true. And it's definitely. And it's interesting that you've mentioned that because now thinking about it, definitely. They say that an angry woman is not somebody you want to meet on the streets.
And let alone be an angry mother. Like, okay.
Let's have some peace. That's
Yeah.
that's quite interesting. So yes,
I
it's
love my
been a-
mother. I love my mother. Mother, I love you.
yes,
Yeah. Just want to
yes,
say
yes.
that.
It's well taken. It's well understood. It is.
I hope so. I hope so.
You can get in trouble. I believe on that one. Yes. So yeah. So which means women have power. Which
Yeah.
means that if they do choose to stand for something, definitely a change can be realized in the society.
I think thanks to the woman, we'll experience many changes in coming decades. So let's see
Mhm.
how that all works out together.
It's been a beautiful night.
Thanks so much for joining, Felix. I think we're going to close off this podcast. We want to thank once again Ludwig Kalthoff for joining us to be our guest tonight. And any last words, Felix, before we're going to close off?
For me, it's been a joy listening to what Rotary International has, especially with the upcoming COP28. It showcases this being the first time that Rotary International will have a pavilion. It showcases that they do have a lot that is good for the world. And so I encourage as many as possible to be able to put their hands together with Rotary International. It has the tools, it has the expertise. It's been working in the same space in creating a better world. And I think its voice is getting louder, and I'm proud to be a member.
Yes, thanks so much. I'd like to thank Laurie for helping me start this podcast. Laurie Zuckerman. I'd like to thank ESRAG for helping us with our podcast. For everyone else, thank you so much for listening today. Every little step helps environment in a big way. So any step you take, it will be really appreciated by the climate tomorrow. Thank you so much. Take care of your loved ones. Stay safe. And until we speak again.
Cheers.